What if I told you that over 70% of Hollywood's brightest stars from the golden age battled crippling addictions, turning their fame into a living nightmare? From Richard Burton's vodka-fueled scandals to Veronica Lake's tragic fall from stardom, here are 25 golden age actors who were drunk all the time. 1. Judy Garland. A star from Hollywood's golden age, Judy Garland was known for her amazing voice and charm. But her life behind the scenes was full of pain. She was pushed into fame as a child, signing with MGM at just 13. MGM controlled everything about her life. To make her look like the perfect girl next door, the studio forced her to take diet pills to stay thin, amphetamines to keep working long hours, and sleeping pills at night. This dangerous cycle made her addicted to substances, a struggle that followed her for life. Garland also faced constant criticism about her looks. MGM executives called her plain and chubby, breaking her self-esteem. To cope, she turned to alcohol. Her personal life was filled with trouble, failed marriages, substance misuse, and endless chaos. But when she performed on stage or screen, she channeled her pain into unforgettable moments. Her audience could feel her struggles, and they loved her even more for it. By the 1960s, her career was in trouble. She faced mounting debts, bad relationships, and worsening addictions. Despite everything, she gave her all to her work. Her life ended tragically in 1969 from an accidental overdose. Fans around the world mourned her loss. 2. Humphrey Bogart. The definition of cool, Humphrey Bogart was known for his rough charm and whiskey-drinking characters that made him a Hollywood legend. But alcohol wasn't just an act for Bogart, it was part of his real life. Fans saw him on screen as men like Rick Blaine in Casablanca, often with a drink in hand, but few knew how much it affected his life off-screen. Bogart's drinking was no secret. Directors noticed he could drink martinis and still give incredible performances. Some joked that alcohol even made his acting better. But the reality wasn't as glamorous. His third marriage to Mayo Method was full of fights fueled by alcohol, earning them the nickname the Battling Bogarts. Things improved when he met Lauren Bacall, a young actress who became his true love. She brought some stability to his life, but his love for alcohol never went away. Years of heavy drinking and smoking eventually caught up to Bogart. He developed esophageal cancer and died in 1957. Even as his health declined, he kept up his tough, defiant image. 3. Spencer Tracy. One of Hollywood's greatest stars, Spencer Tracy had a life that wasn't as bright as his career. He struggled with alcoholism for most of his life. Growing up in a strict Catholic home, Tracy carried guilt that made his drinking worse. He started drinking long before he became famous and couldn't stop, even when he starred in big movies like Boys Town and Captain's Courageous. Behind the camera, his drinking caused problems. He would miss work or show up in bad shape, but directors still wanted him because his talent was incredible. On screen, he seemed strong and real, showing emotions like no one else. Off screen, he was a troubled man. His relationship with Katharine Hepburn became legendary. She cared for him during his hardest times, but their relationship was complicated. Tracy refused to divorce his wife because of his Catholic beliefs, which made things even harder for both of them. As Tracy got older, his health declined. Years of heavy drinking left him weak, but he kept acting. In his last movie, Guess Who's Coming to Dinner, he gave a powerful performance even though his body was failing him. He died in 1967 at the age of 67, leaving behind an unforgettable legacy. Bette Davis. One of the toughest stars in Hollywood, Bette Davis became a legend with her fierce performances in movies like All About Eve and now Voyager. But behind her strong image was a woman battling personal struggles, including a long fight with alcohol. In Hollywood's golden age, it wasn't easy for women to succeed. Davis had to fight hard to stay on top. The constant pressure to be the best wore her down, and she often turned to alcohol. Her personal life was just as messy. She married 4 times and each marriage ended badly. Her third husband, William Grant Sherry, faced her fiery temper and the effects of her drinking. Their fights were famous and showed how much stress Davis carried, from her career, her ambition, and her personal life. As a mother, Davis had a rocky relationship with her daughter, B.D. Hyman. In a shocking memoir, Hyman accused Davis of being distant and harsh. Some people saw the book as an unfair attack, while others believed it showed the darker side of Davis's life. The truth is still debated, leaving questions about Davis's legacy. Even as she grew older and roles became scarce, Davis kept working. She appeared in movies into her 70s, speaking out against how Hollywood treated older women. She died in 1989, remembered as a powerhouse of talent. Richard Burton, a man whose charisma and powerful voice made him unforgettable. Richard Burton is remembered for his iconic roles in Cleopatra, Beckett, and Who's Afraid of Virginia Woolf. Just as famous as his career was his wild relationship with alcohol. Born the son of a Welsh miner, he rose to incredible fame, but his success came at a steep cost. Burton's drinking was legendary. At his worst, he reportedly drank 3 bottles of vodka every day. For him, alcohol wasn't just a habit, it was his way of life. This addiction bled into every part of his world, especially his fiery relationship with Elizabeth Taylor. Their love story began during the filming of Cleopatra, creating a scandal that rocked Hollywood. They married twice and were the ultimate power couple. Their lives were filled with lavish gifts, extravagant parties, and alcohol-fueled nights. But their passion also brought jealousy and rage, leading to explosive fights and heartbreak. Burton's career also suffered because of his drinking. While his talent remained undeniable, his addiction caused delays, strained relationships, and missed opportunities. His health quickly declined, with frequent hospital visits and warnings from doctors. By the late 1970s, he tried to cut back, but the damage was already done. He passed away in 1984 at the age of 58, his body worn out by years of excess. 6. Ava Gardner. The very image of Hollywood glamour, Ava Gardner became one of the biggest stars of her time with beauty that could light up a room. But her life, filled with fame and wealth, was far from perfect. Behind the dazzling exterior was a woman battling turbulent relationships and a damaging dependence on alcohol. Born in rural North Carolina, Gardner's rise to fame seemed like a fairy tale. She starred in classics like The Assassins and Mogambo. Off-screen, she was a regular in Hollywood's party scene, where drinking was a constant. Her marriage to Frank Sinatra was a whirlwind of passion and drama. Their fiery romance was marked by love, jealousy, and countless alcohol-fueled fights. Though their marriage ended, Gardner always called Sinatra the love of her life. Even after their divorce, Sinatra's devotion never faded. He supported her financially when she needed help later in life. Gardner's other relationships, including those with Howard Hughes and Artie Shaw, were just as chaotic. Her strong independence often clashed with the expectations of her partners. As the golden age of Hollywood faded, so did Gardner's career. She moved to Europe to escape the limelight, but her drinking caught up with her. Health problems mounted, and her once bright spark dimmed. Despite her struggles, Gardner's honesty and charm endured. She spoke openly about her flaws and didn't shy away from her mistakes. When she passed away in 1990, she left behind a legacy of beauty and talent. 7th, Errol Flynn. Hollywood's ultimate daredevil, Errol Flynn wasn't just an actor. With hit movies like The Adventures of Robin Hood and Captain Blood, he became the face of fearless heroes and wild adventures. But off-screen, his life was just as dramatic. Flynn was famous not only for his sword fights, but also for his love of alcohol and non-stop partying. From growing up in Australia to living the Hollywood dream, Flynn always had a drink in hand. On his fancy yacht, the Zaka, or at glamorous parties, rum or whiskey was his constant companion. His wild lifestyle made headlines, adding to his larger-than-life image. However, the drinking came at a cost. Scandals followed him everywhere. In 1943, he was tried for statutory assault. Although he was found not guilty, his reputation took a hit. Behind the scenes, his drinking made him unreliable. Directors got frustrated with his tardiness, and co-stars had to deal with his unpredictable moods. As he got older, Flynn's health began to fail. His athletic build faded, and the charming rebel fans loved started to disappear. By the late 1950s, his career had stalled. He took small, cheap roles to make money, but his body couldn't keep up. Years of heavy drinking left him broke and sick. In 1959, he died of a heart attack at just 50 years old, his liver destroyed by cirrhosis. 8. William Holden. One of Hollywood's biggest stars, William Holden was known for roles in Sunset Boulevard, Stalag 17, and The Bridge on the River Kwai. But behind his success was a man fighting his own battles. For Holden, alcohol became his way of dealing with the pressure of fame and a tough industry. Holden's drinking wasn't a secret. He said alcohol wasn't just a habit, it was something he needed. While fans saw him as a charming, talented actor, those close to him knew a different side. His girlfriend, actress Stephanie Powers, spoke about the pain of watching him struggle. He was torn between his magnetic personality and the damage his addiction caused. Even with his personal struggles, Holden stayed professional. He gave unforgettable performances and even won an Oscar for Stalag 17. But the drinking wore him down over time, straining his health and relationships. In 1981, tragedy struck. Alone in his Los Angeles apartment, Holden fell and hit his head while drunk. Unable to get help, he bled to death. He was 63. His sudden death shocked Hollywood and highlighted the deadly risks of addiction. 9. Montgomery Clift. A Hollywood star with raw talent and a troubled life, Montgomery Clift was known for powerful roles in movies like A Place in the Sun, From Here to Eternity, and Judgment at Nuremberg. He changed the way acting was done in Hollywood during its golden years. But his life took a dark turn after a terrible car accident in 1956. The crash left Clift with serious injuries that changed his face and his future. He was in constant pain, both physical and emotional, and turned to alcohol and pills to cope. He once described his life after the accident as the longest self-destruction in Hollywood. His struggles with addiction caused chaos in his life. Directors and co-stars worried about his strange behaviour, but his amazing talent often made them overlook it. Despite his health problems, he gave incredible performances, including one that earned him an Academy Award nomination for Judgment at Nuremberg. Clift's inner struggles made things worse. He often felt like he wasn't good enough, which pushed him further into despair. One bright spot in his life was his close friendship with Elizabeth Taylor. She stood by him and helped him face Hollywood's pressures and his own demons. By the 1960s, Clift had withdrawn from the world. His career faded as his body and mind grew weaker. In 1966, he died of a heart attack at just 45 years old, his years of addiction finally catching up to him. Veronica Lake. With beauty and her famous peekaboo hairstyle, Veronica Lake became a star in the 1940s. Known for roles in movies like Sullivan's Travels, This Gun for Hire, and The Blue Dahlia, she captivated audiences. But behind the scenes, her life was falling apart because of addiction. Lake's problems started quietly. The pressure to stay perfect in Hollywood led her to drink. At first, it helped her cope, but soon it took over her life. Her drinking caused problems on movie sets, and directors grew frustrated. Her reputation began to suffer. Her personal life was also a mess. She went through failed marriages and money troubles. By the 1950s, her career was in decline. The glamorous star of the 1940s became a tabloid story about a fading celebrity. In the 1960s, she was even found working as a waitress in New York, far from Hollywood's spotlight. Despite everything, Lake was honest about her struggles. She wrote an autobiography where she shared the truth about her life. But years of heavy drinking took a toll on her health. In 1973, she died at 50 from kidney failure and hepatitis. Peter Lorre. A name that chills the spine, Peter Lorre became one of the most unforgettable actors of Hollywood's golden age. Known for his big, haunting eyes and eerie voice, he wowed audiences in movies like M, The Maltese Falcon, and Casablanca. But behind the fame, his real life was dark and full of struggles. Lorre battled addiction. He turned to alcohol and morphine to escape the pressures of his career and his inner demons. Many of his roles, villains, outcasts, and troubled characters, felt like reflections of his real-life struggles. His health problems, like constant gallbladder pain, led him to morphine. It didn't take long for the substance to take over his life, and his drinking made things worse. He hid his pain with dark humour and sharp wit, but deep down, he doubted himself. Friends said he was unpredictable. Directors found him difficult to work with. Still, his talent shone through every time. By the 1950s, his career slowed down. Big roles disappeared, replaced by small parts in cheap movies and TV shows. Money problems and his health made things harder. By the early 1960s, years of addiction and illness caught up to him. In 1964, a stroke ended his life at just 59. 12th, Mickey Rooney. A life full of highs and lows, Mickey Rooney was America's sweetheart as a child star, appearing in over 300 films and charming audiences as Andy Hardy. His energy and charisma seemed endless. But behind the smiles and success, his life was anything but easy. Alcohol became a problem as fame's pressures grew. Despite earning millions, Rooney often found himself broke. Lavish spending, bad choices, and poor money management led him to file for bankruptcy multiple times. His personal life was no less chaotic. He married 8 times, and his drinking added to the turmoil. Rooney once said alcohol helped him cope, but over time, it became a prison. His struggles were no secret. Tabloids loved writing about his fall from grace, but Rooney never gave up. Later in life, he became a voice for elder mistreatment awareness, using his own painful experiences to help others. Even as his career went up and down, his talent never faded. Roles in The Black Stallion and the Broadway show Sugar Babies reminded everyone why he was a star. 13. Tallulah Bankhead. Like a hurricane in human form, Tallulah Bankhead lit up stages and movie screens with unforgettable performances in The Little Foxes and Hitchcock's Lifeboat. But her fame wasn't just about her talent. She was known for her bold personality, sharp humour, and love of living on the edge. Tallulah's life was a constant party. She was always surrounded by crowds, drinking, smoking, and cracking jokes that left everyone laughing. Her wild lifestyle was as famous as her acting. But this wildness came with a price. Her drinking led to fights, unpredictable behaviour, and trouble in her career. Still, when she performed, it was pure magic. People couldn't take their eyes off her. As she got older, the years of partying caught up to her. Younger stars took over the spotlight, and her health started to fail. But even as her fame faded, Tallulah stayed true to herself. She lived boldly until the end, passing away in 1968 at 66. 14. John Barrymore. Nicknamed the Great Profile, John Barrymore was Hollywood royalty. His deep voice and striking looks made him a star in movies like Grand Hotel and 20th Century. But Barrymore was just as famous for his wild lifestyle as he was for his acting. Barrymore's days were filled with drinking. At first, his charm and humour made him the life of the party. People told endless stories about his wild nights. But soon, the effects of his drinking began to show. By the 1930s, he struggled to remember his lines, and directors found him unreliable. Even so, there were moments when his talent shone through, reminding everyone of his greatness. Barrymore's personal life was as chaotic as his career. He went through multiple marriages, faced money problems, and dealt with serious health issues. By the time he died in 1942 at age 60, he was a shadow of the actor he once was. Still, his influence on Hollywood never faded. 15. Ray Milland. A big name in Hollywood, Ray Milland is best known for his Oscar-winning role in The Lost Weekend, This movie showed the harsh truth about alcoholism, stripping away any glamour. What made it even more striking was how close it was to Milland's real life. Off-screen, the charming actor secretly struggled with alcohol himself. Unlike many stars of his time, Milland kept his personal life hidden, presenting a professional image that masked his battles. Milland's ability to keep his problems out of the spotlight showed his strong discipline. But the pressures of Hollywood still weighed on him. Alcohol became his way to cope with fame, and the shift from being a leading man to taking on smaller roles. His performance in The Lost Weekend felt so real because it came from a personal place. It wasn't just acting, it was a reflection of his own struggles. Winning an Oscar for such a raw and emotional role made him a respected actor, but it also forced him to face his reality. Milland's life had two sides: the polished star the public adored, and the man fighting private battles. Even as he grew older and took on directing and smaller roles, his struggles left a mark. When he passed away at 79, Milland was remembered for his strength and quiet determination. 16. Gloria Grahame. A film noir icon, Gloria Grahame captivated audiences with her roles as complex, morally grey characters, but her off-screen life was just as dramatic. Her battle with alcohol wasn't a hidden problem. It was destructive, damaging her career and relationship. On set, her drinking made her unpredictable. Co-stars and directors often struggled with her mood swings, which sometimes disrupted filming. Her personal life was filled with scandal. She married 4 times, including to Nicholas Ray, who later found out she had an affair with his teenage son. This scandal, combined with her drinking, pushed her further away from Hollywood's inner circle. By the 1960s, Graham's career had faded, and she was left with smaller roles and stage performances. Despite her troubles, Graham's talent shone brightly. In films like In a Lonely Place and The Bad and the Beautiful, she portrayed vulnerability and danger with unmatched skill. But as the years went on, her drinking took a toll on her health, and her attempts to make a comeback failed. 17. Shelley Winters. A bold and talented actress, Shelley Winters won 2 Oscars for her unforgettable roles. On screen, she could deliver both powerful drama and playful comedy. Off-screen, her life was messy, marked by a struggle with alcohol. Unlike many, she didn't hide her drinking. Instead, she joked about it, using humour to deflect attention. But behind the jokes was a real battle that affected her relationships and career. Her personality was larger than life, which sometimes made her clash with the strict demands of filmmaking. While she was a true professional on set, her off-screen behaviour, often fueled by alcohol, made her unpredictable. Stories of her fiery temper and wild antics spread widely, but her incredible talent often overshadowed the chaos. Movies like A Place in the Sun and The Diary of Anne Frank showed her emotional depth and earned her 2 Academy Awards. Winters' personal life was as stormy as her career. She married 4 times, and her relationships were filled with drama, often worsened by her drinking. But she was always honest about her flaws. Later in life, she became a mentor, using her struggles to teach younger actors. Her ability to bounce back and stay relevant for decades showed her resilience. However, as her health declined, her fiery spirit dimmed. 18. George C. Scott. A powerhouse actor whose name still commands respect, George C. Scott delivered intense performances and a commanding presence that made him unforgettable. But beneath the surface, Scott battled personal demons, including a fiery temper and a long struggle with alcohol. Known for refusing to compromise, he lived on the edge of genius and chaos. The stage and screen were his battlefield, but alcohol often fueled his struggles. Scott's drinking was no secret. He started his career in Hollywood's later golden years, striving for perfection even as his personal life spun out of control. Films like The Hustler showcased his unmatched acting skills, but behind the scenes, his volatile moods made him difficult to work with. Directors and co-stars often found him challenging, but his brilliance was undeniable. 19. Claire Trevor. Known as the Queen of Film Noir, Claire Trevor amazed audiences with her deep and emotional performances. Her characters often showed a mix of toughness and vulnerability, but her personal life had its own challenges. Trevor struggled with alcohol, which blurred the line between the role she played and her real-life battles. Her Oscar-winning role in Key Largo as Gay Dawn left many wondering if the pain she showed on screen came from her own experiences. Behind the camera, Trevor's life was far from perfect. She was married 3 times, and her second marriage was filled with arguments and tension. Her drinking problems only added to the difficulties. Despite her struggles, Trevor gave unforgettable performances in movies like Dead End and Born to Eliminate. But by the 1960s, the impact of alcohol was clear. She slowly stepped away from the spotlight, living a quieter life. 20. Fredric March. A Hollywood legend, Fredric March won 2 Academy Awards and starred in films for decades. He seemed to have it all, but he also battled alcohol addiction. Unlike others, he kept his struggles private, which made his life more complex. March's dedication to acting set him apart, but his drinking caused problems in his personal life. His marriage to Florence Eldridge lasted through the years, but it wasn't without challenges. Together, they faced the ups and downs caused by his drinking. As he grew older, March's health began to decline, and some believed his years of drinking made things worse. Still, his passion for acting never faded. He had a talent for playing flawed characters, perhaps because he understood life's imperfections. 21st. Joan Blondell. The lively and quick-witted star of pre-code Hollywood, Joan Blondell charmed audiences with her humour and sparkle. But behind the scenes, her life was filled with challenges. Like many stars of her time, she turned to alcohol to cope with the pressures of fame and personal struggles. Blondell was married 3 times, to George Barnes, Dick Powell, and Mike Todd. Each marriage had its share of drama, especially her turbulent union with Todd. Alcohol became her way of dealing with these difficulties and the demands of Hollywood. Even as her health declined in later years, Blondell continued to act, moving to television and smaller film roles. Her performances still carried the same energy and resilience that made her a star. But the toll of her private battles was evident. 22nd Barbara Payton. One of the darkest stories from old Hollywood, Barbara Payton rose to fame in the late 1940s with her beauty and talent. She shined in movies like Kiss Tomorrow Goodbye, 1950, acting alongside James Cagney. Many thought she would become one of Hollywood's biggest stars, but her fame didn't last. Drinking and bad personal choices quickly ruined her career and life. The tabloids loved her scandals. Her messy love triangle with actors Franchot Tone and Tom Neal shocked the public. Things got worse when Neal beat up Tone, sending him to the hospital. Payton then married Neal, which only added to the drama. Studios didn't want to work with her anymore. Her drunken behaviour and unstable relationships made her a risk. By the mid-1950s, her career was over. After Hollywood rejected her, Payton's life spiraled. She became addicted to alcohol and fell into poverty. To survive, she turned to prostitution. Years of drinking and neglect destroyed her once striking beauty. In 1967, at just 39 years old, she died from liver and heart failure. 23rd W.C. Fields. A comedy legend known for his sharp wit and grumpy characters, W.C. Fields entertained audiences with his iconic roles in movies like The Bank Dick, 1940, and It's a Gift, 1934. But behind the jokes, he fought battles with alcohol that mirrored the drunk characters he often played. His humour made him one of America's favourite entertainers, yet his drinking became just as famous as his talent. Fields's drinking was a daily habit. He was known for hiding bottles of gin in props while working on film sets. Despite being drunk much of the time, he still managed to deliver brilliant performances. But over time, the effects of alcohol began to show. His drinking caused health problems and delays on set. While he used humour to hide his struggles, his body couldn't keep up. By the 1940s, his health had worsened. Years of heavy drinking led to liver damage and a weak immune system. In 1946, Fields died at age 66 from a stomach hemorrhage caused by his alcoholism. His death marked the end of his era, but it left a clear message about the price of addiction. 24th, Lizabeth Scott. With a smoky voice and mysterious charm, Lizabeth Scott earned the title of Noir Queen during Hollywood's golden age. In classics like Dead Reckoning 1947 and Too Late for Tears 1949, she became the ultimate femme fatale. But Scott was more than her roles. She rejected Hollywood's strict rules and embraced a wild lifestyle that didn't match the industry's clean image. Scott loved late-night parties and heavy drinking, which made her a polarizing figure. Studios appreciated her talent but worried about her reputation. Unlike many women of her time, Scott refused to follow the expected norms. Her bold choices earned her both fans and critics. But this rebellious streak came at a cost. By the mid-1950s, her unwillingness to conform pushed her out of favour in Hollywood. Her career faded, and she moved into television before leaving the spotlight for good. 25th, Robert Walke. A chilling performance in Strangers on a Train in 1951 cemented Robert Walke as one of cinema's greatest villains. But behind his acting brilliance was a man haunted by pain, addiction, and mental illness. His divorce from actress Jennifer Jones, who left him for producer David O. Selznick, devastated him. Walke turned to alcohol to cope, but it only made things worse. Hollywood knew about Walke's struggles. His drinking and unpredictable behaviour made him a risky choice for directors. Still, when he was focused, his acting was unforgettable. His work in Strangers on a Train shows how he channeled his personal pain into his art. But his struggles didn't go away. Studios became hesitant to hire him, and his career suffered. In 1951, Walke's life ended tragically at just 32 years old. After drinking and taking a sedative for his emotional struggles, he had a fatal reaction. His death shocked Hollywood and exposed how poorly the industry handled addiction and mental health.